I still have that text. Not because I couldn't bring myself to delete it, but because some stubborn part of me needed to see the exact words again. To remember the incision as it cut. No more intimacy. Deal with it. That was all. No build-up, no explanation. Just a thumb-sized guillotine dropping out of nowhere. One message, and my world tilted. I stared at the screen far too long, caught between disbelief and absurdity. You ever try to convince your brain of something that flatly refuses to compute? That was me, trying to fit a jagged block of grief into the round hole of trust. For a few seconds I even thought it was a joke. Something stupid, dry. But Heather, my wife of 8 years, wasn't exactly the playful prank sort. Least of all about things like this. Not anymore. I didn't reply. I just sat there at the edge of our bed, phone limp in my hand, watching the quiet unravel. My thoughts retraced the last few weeks, then kept stretching back, maybe months. When exactly had things started bleeding out of our marriage? Slowly at first, like a leak ticking beneath the walls. Silent but deadly if you listened closely enough. Apparently, I hadn't been listening. Heather and I had logged 8 years together. The first 3, solid. The next 2, fine. The last 3, a blur between numb and neglected. I chalked it up to the usual suspects. Work stress, exhaustion, life doing what life does. She saw something else entirely. She read it like a signal, permission to shift the dynamic, to redraw the map without telling me. And somehow, announcing via text that I was no longer going to be touched, wanted, or loved. Well, that was her new form of communication. I didn't confront her that night. She came home late again, nodded vaguely, dropped her keys in the bowl, and disappeared straight into the bathroom. The water ran. It ran for over an hour. When she finally emerged, hair slicked back, wearing indifference like a robe, she carried a towel and a cup of tea into the guest room, as though the evening had gone exactly to plan. The bed felt enormous that night. Not because she wasn't in it, she'd been emotionally gone long before, but because the air had hollowed out. And unlike all the nights before, I didn't try to reclaim it. I didn't text her, didn't stand outside her door rehearsing apologies, didn't pour a scotch and wait for her to come around. I just lay there staring at the ceiling and thought, okay, let's deal with it then. The days that followed felt like a controlled burn. Nothing cinematic, no slammed doors or wedding rings tossed dramatically into trash cans, just slow recalibration. I stopped asking if she'd eaten, stopped worrying when her mood soured, stopped sweeping up all the emotional debris she left behind. It's not that I stopped caring, it's that I stopped chasing. For years, I'd perform this endless routine, work harder, show up more, earn more, help more, praise more, forgive more, like feeding a machine that never produced warmth. I kept hoping some variable would flip, and she'd finally look at me like she used to, like I existed. But when someone texts you a line that definitive, perhaps the only decent thing left to do is accept it. She believed she could cut off affection and still receive devotion, as though love was a subscription service that renews itself automatically. She thought I'd orbit quietly in her gravity, thankful just to exist near her pull. But something cracked open in me that night. Not broken, no. Something unlatched. Something free. A week later, I started noticing things. The phone lighting up more often, bursts of laughter that didn't include me, team outings that always landed midweek. None of it was explosive, but the patterns aligned too neatly. Perfume for no reason. Her phone tilted slightly away, a nervous swipe when a message came in. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was curious. What did deal with it mean to her exactly? Because clearly, we weren't using the same dictionary anymore. But Tessa, her best friend, was the true giveaway. Suddenly she was over constantly, bearing bottles of wine and whispered jokes. I'd known Tessa since college, since before Heather had even said yes to forever. But her presence lately felt invasive, like she was no longer just a spectator but part of the plot. One night, from the top of the stairs, I heard laughter float up from the kitchen, something about finally putting him in his place. I heard enough. I didn't need the rest. A line had been sketched, and Tessa's fingerprints were on the chalk. No rage came. No shouting match. I simply walked to my study, opened my laptop, and began a list. Nothing emotional, just names, dates, observations. Practical, methodical. Deal with it, she said. Fine, let's deal. The transformation didn't happen overnight. I didn't morph into some brooding avenger. I just started mirroring her energy. Subtraction for subtraction. No more shoulder massages during her long rants about coworkers. No more spontaneous dinners, grocery runs, or just checking in. I even retired from household heroics. The loose drawer? Still loose. The bathroom light? Still flickering. And when she finally complained, I met her eyes and said, "You're clever. You'll figure it out. She hated that. She didn't argue, though. She'd given me silence. I simply returned it in kind. Our communication thinned into logistics. Who'd buy milk, who'd sign the water bill, who'd feed the dog. Partners in an unprofitable business. Co-workers on a sinking project. And interestingly, when I stopped orbiting, she started to notice my distance. One morning she said, "You haven't made coffee lately." I shrugged. "Thought you wanted space." She blinked, turned away. It's astounding how people assume you can pluck love out of a relationship, and the structure will still stand. Like yanking out a load-bearing beam and wondering why the ceiling caves. I wasn't seeking confrontation. I was seeking confirmation. And then there was Tessa, practically a household fixture now. I'd come home and find the two of them curled on the couch, glasses of wine, voices lowered but laughter sharp. When I walked by, Heather gave the polite smile of someone pretending, while Tessa flashed the daring one of someone who knows something you don't. I didn't fall for it. I'd already begun documenting. Nothing crazy, just clarity. A quiet audit of truths, Wednesdays and Thursdays, late nights. Unfamiliar perfume, clothes that didn't fit the occasion. Then one afternoon at work, fate tossed me a breadcrumb. Denise, a colleague, smiled in passing and said, "Hey, wasn't your wife at that rooftop sushi bar with you the other night?" I almost laughed. "Haven't been out in ages," she frowned, puzzled. "Oh, well, maybe it wasn't her. Though she was wearing that green dress, you know the kind." I knew exactly the kind. Heather's notice-me dress, long retired, or so I thought. I kept my face neutral. "She's got good taste, whoever she was." Denise hesitated, regret flickering across her face. I didn't mind. That single sentence confirmed months of fog. That evening, Heather came home distracted. Her heels hit the floor, her bag landed beside them. She didn't look my way. I was at the counter, eating takeout straight from the box, something I hadn't done since bachelorhood. She paused, frowning at the sight. "You didn't cook?" she asked. "Nope." "Oh." She lingered, expecting something. Explanation, maybe reassurance. I gave her none. "Long day?" I offered casually. She nodded, scratching her neck. "Yeah, deadlines." Her eyes jumped to the wine rack, and then she drifted out of the room. It tasted like victory. The next few weeks were a masterclass in passive exposure. I stopped wearing my wedding ring. I told her it was tied on my finger now that I've been working out more, which was true. I joined a gym, started eating cleaner, lost 12 lbs without telling her, gained some tone in places she used to touch without thinking. Now she didn't even notice. Or maybe she did, but she was too stubborn to admit it. I started staying late at work, not because I needed to, but because I could. No check-in texts, no guilt. Sometimes I'd swing by a bar alone, sit at the counter with a beer in my thoughts and just watch people. Couples laughing, singles flirting, people trying. At least they were trying. And that's when it hit me she wasn't. Heather wasn't trying. Not with me. Not with herself. Not even with Thalie she was living. She'd become entitled to affection she'd withdrawn. Oblivious to comfort she no longer gave. And I was done handing out emotional currency like I was some bottomless ATM of patience. But what really burned, what finally set the next step in motion, was something I overheard late one night. She thought I was asleep upstairs. I wasn't. I'd gone down 4 water and stopped at the bottom of the staircase when I heard her voice. "I think he's finally getting it," Heather said. "He's pulled back cold as hell lately." Then Tessa's voice. "Good. Maybe now he'll see how much he relied on you. Maybe he'll appreciate what he lost." And then they laughed. Not hard, just soft, satisfied, intimate. I stood there in the dark, holding the glass of water, listening to the two of them treat my emotional withdrawal like some kind of punishment I was supposed to learn from. That's when I realized this wasn't about love anymore. It was about control. She thought she could weaponize withdrawal, that I'd beg for scraps of attention. But I wasn't playing that game anymore. And when I finally made my move, neither of them would see it coming. Heather's mood started shifting about a week after that overheard conversation. At first it was just small things, little hints of confusion behind her indifference. She started pausing longer after E answered questions, watching me out of the corner of her eye when I moved around the house. One night she even asked, "Is something wrong?" I just smiled and said, "Nope." That's the thing about silence. If you hold it long enough, it starts to sound louder than shouting. And she was starting to hear it. She still kept up her routine. Long showers, late evenings out, vague explanations about planning meetings or brunch with Tessa. But the confidence was thinning. I can see it in the way she hesitated before grabbing her keys or double-checked her lipstick in the hallway mirror. And when she asked if I wanted to come to dinner with her and Tessa the following Saturday, something she hadn't done in over a year, I knew it had begun. She was trying to gauge how far she'd pushed. Can't, I said, without looking up from my laptop. Got plans. She didn't ask what kind. She never used to care about my plans. Now she was wondering why she didn't know them. Tessa showed up 2 days later, unexpected, uninvited, and way too confident. I was home early from work fixing a loose cabinet door in the kitchen. It wasn't for her. I just needed to use the drill and couldn't remember where I last put it. When the doorbell rang, I didn't even check the peephole. She walked in like she owned the place. Hair up, sunglasses perched on her head, and that smile, the one that always hovered between friendly and smug. "Hey, stranger," she said, glancing around. "Heather home?" "Nope." She looked disappointed but not surprised. "Oh, thought she might have left early. We were supposed to go over something for a party." I just nodded and went back to the cabinet. Tessa leaned in the counter, folding her arms. "So, you two doing okay?" That's when I turned to look at her fully. No fake smile, no fake warmth, just a quiet, measured stare. "We're doing whatever she wants us to be doing," I said. Tessa tilted her head, something flickering behind her ears, almost like amusement. She told me, "You've been distant, like ice cold." "She's observant," I said, then added, "Takes one to know one." Tessa raised her eyebrows. "You think I'm cold?" "I think you've been pouring gasoline on a fire you lit yourself," I replied. "And now you're surprised it's spreading." There was a pause. Something shifted in her stance. She straightened up slowly, that glossy polish in her expression slipping just a bit. "I waste drink to help her," she said, less sure of herself now. "You've been emotionally unavailable for years. She needed to find herself again." "No," I said quietly. "She needed someone to feed the part of her that wanted to feel powerful." "And you just wanted a front row seat." She didn't deny it. She didn't have to. There was a long silence before she gave a tiny, mirthless laugh. "Well, you're sharper than she thinks." "I'm not playing anymore," I said. "Whatever game you two had going, it's over." Tessa looked at me for a long time, calculating. Maybe even a little regretful. "You're not as dull as she always made you out to be." I didn't flinch, and "You're not as loyal as he thinks." That landed. She grabbed her purse without another word and walked out. The moment the door shut behind her, I reached for my phone and opened the voice recorder. The whole conversation was crystal clear. That night, Heather came home early for once. She looked tired. Not makeup tired, soul tired. She put her purse down and hovered near the kitchen island. "I ran into Denise," she said after a moment. I didn't say anything. She said, "You've been looking great lately. Losing weight, dressing better." Still, I didn't speak. Then came the question she didn't want to ask. "Is there someone else?" That made me laugh quietly, almost involuntarily. "No," I said. "But you've definitely made room for someone, haven't you?" She blinked fast, like she hadn't expected that tone. "What the hell is that supposed to mean?" "It means you can't be surprised when someone stops showing up after you bolt the door." She took a step forward. "You're twisting this. You shut down first." "No," I said calmly. "You ended intimacy over text. Remember? Deal with it." "That's what you said." And I did. Her mouth opened like she wanted to argue, but nothing came out. There was a moment, just a flash, where I thought I saw something behind her eyes. Not guilt, not sadness, doubt. The seeds were planted now. She didn't know how far I'd gone or how much I'd already uncovered, but she could feel it. And Tessa, she wouldn't stay quiet for long. People like her never do. When truth cracks, it doesn't shatter all at once. It peels slowly. And we were just getting started. I think there's a moment in every unraveling where the person who pulled the thread finally feels the fabric collapse beneath them. For Heather, it happened on a Tuesday. She came home early again. That alone was suspicious. She stood in the doorway longer than usual, almost like she was rehearsing her lines. Purse still on her shoulder, face unreadable. "Can we talk?" she asked. I closed my laptop and set it on the coffee table. "Sure." She sat on the edge of the couch, hands folded, nervous energy everywhere. For a second, I thought she might cry or explode, but instead, she said it. "Tessa said you threatened her." I actually laughed. That was the opening volley. "I didn't threaten her," I said. "I told her I knew what she was doing. She's been a good friend to me." Heather snapped. "No," I said, "she's been a mirror. You just liked what you saw." Her mouth opened, then closed again. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees, and locked eyes with her. "Do you want to know what she said about you when you weren't around?" She blinked, caught off guard. "What? I recorded it." "I can play it if you want." "Your good friend talked about how she pushed you to pull away from me. How she wanted you to wake me up, but she wasn't helping you. She was helping herself feel powerful. She liked being the one in your ear, the one shaping the narrative." Heather stared at me frozen. "She laughed at you," I added. "Said I was sharper than you thought. Said you made him out to be dull." "No," Heather whispered, voice shaky. "You're twisting it." "No," I said. "I have their recording. There's nothing to twist." She sat back, staring at a spot on the wall. Her hands had started to tremble, maybe from rage, maybe from fear. But I wasn't done. "You remember the green dress?" I asked casually. The one you wore to that work dinner? Her head snapped toward me. Funny thing, I said. My coworker saw you. Said you weren't with colleagues. Said the guy was younger, tall, wore a Rolex. Her lips parted, but she didn't deny it. Let me guess, I said. Tessa encouraged it. Told you to do what makes you feel alive. Told you I'd never know. Still nothing. So here's what's going to happen, I continued. I've already met with a lawyer. The paperwork's being drawn up. What? Her voice cracked. You're ending this. I tilted my head. You already did. I'm just closing the tab, but she stood up as if proximity would help her case. We can talk this through. I didn't mean for. I stood up too, calm and unshaken. You meant every word. You typed them out with your thumbs and sent them like a grenade. And I caught it, read it, and walked away from the blast. Had to look lost. Like the blueprint she'd been working from had just burst into flames. And then for the first time in years, I saw it. Regret. But regret's a slippery thing. It doesn't fix anything. It just shows up when there's nothing left to hold on to. She tried again. Tessa shit-wisted things. She said you were shutting me out. She said a lot of things. I cut in, but she didn't send that message. You did. Her voice was almost a whisper. I didn't think you'd stop loving me. That one hit. Not because it was true, but because it was pathetic. You didn't stop to wonder what I'd do without intimacy. You only assumed I'd stay. Silence stretched between us. I did stay, I added softer now. I stayed through your distance, your moods, your half-truths. I gave you everything I had left until you told me not to. I walked past her toward the hall. Where are you going? She asked, panic now creeping into her voice. Upstairs, I said. I'm moving into the guest room until the papers are final. The attorney will be in touch this week. You're divorcing me over a text. I paused at the stairs, looked over my shoulder. No, I said. I'm divorcing you over what followed it. The next day, she called in sick. I heard her crying in the bedroom, heard her pacing, talking to someone on the phone, probably Tessa. It didn't matter anymore. That bridge had burned too. Later that week, I received a message from an unknown number. It was Tessa. It never meant for things to go that far. She needed a wake-up call. I didn't think she'd self-destruct. I didn't reply because some betrayals aren't personal. They're just selfish. But some endings, some are exactly what you've earned. And Heather's was finally on its way. She didn't fight the divorce. Not really. Oh, she protested at first. Talked about counseling. Said we could figure it out. Even cried in the driveway one morning when I came out with a duffel bag and told her I'd be staying with my brother for a bit. But it wasn't real resistance. It was panic. The kind that shows up when someone realizes the leash they've been holding wasn't wrapped around a pet. It was attached to a man who had just learned to chew through therapy. The last time I saw her before the paperwork was finalized. We met at a quiet coffee shop halfway between her office and the law firm. Neutral ground. She wore a blazer and sunglasses even though it was cloudy out. Her usual confidence was gone. She looked like someone walking into a job interview she wasn't qualified for. She sat down across from me, stirred her tea 3 times without taking a sip, then said, I miss you. I let that hang in there. She tried again. I think I got in my own head. I let the wrong voices steer me. I don't know why I did it. I just felt invisible. I nodded. So you made me feel invisible too. That wasn't what I meant to do. I know, but it's what you did. There was a long pause. She finally sipped her tea, but her hands were shaking. I didn't sleep with him, you know. I looked out the window. You don't have to say that. I didn't, she insisted. I thought about it. And I was going to, but I didn't go through with it. That night, the dinner, I got to the hotel and I couldn't do it. I met her eyes. You still chose to meet him. She didn't reply. And that's when I realized something important. It wasn't just that she betrayed me. It was that she planned to. She crossed the morale lines in her mind long before her body ever followed. And she didn't back out because she loved me. She backed out because she got scared. There's no love and fear, just hesitation. I'm not angry, I said. I'm done. Heather looked like she wanted to reach for my hand, but thought better of it. We were good once. Yeah, I said quietly. We were. And that was the last meaningful thing we ever said to each other. The divorce went through with barely a hiccup. No children, no messy assets. Just a few financial accounts, a car each, and the house, which I signed over to her without a fight. It surprised her, but I didn't want it. Not because I couldn't afford it, because I didn't want to live inside a memory that had been hollowed out from the inside. The morning, I handed the final signed document to my lawyer. I left the building and walked until my legs got sore. I passed cafes we used to go to, shops where I bought her birthday gifts, even the theater where we'd once slow danced in the lobby because the movie made her feel romantic. None of it hurt. It didn't feel like loss. It felt like distance, like I was watching someone else's story. Someone who had tried, stayed loyal, loved well, but in the end walked away before forgetting who he was. 2 months later, I saw Tessa again at a bookstore of all places. She looked thinner, tired. She smiled when she saw me, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Hey," she said, "you look good." "Thanks," I replied. "You don't." She smirked. "Fair." Heather hasn't really spoken to him since. Everything. Guess I burned 2 bridges instead of 1. "You played with fire," I said. "Sometimes the match burns you back." She nodded slowly. "I wasn't trying to destroy you guys." "No," I said. "But you wanted to watch her destroy herself. That's not friendship. That's performance art." Tessa looked down and said, "You know, she still talks about you. Says she thought you'd chase her, that she didn't think you'd actually leave. She was wrong. She knows that now." I let that sit for a moment. Then good. I turned and walked away. No dramatic exit, no parting shots. Just the sound of the door opening and the weight of nothing left to say. It's been almost a year. I've rebuilt my life quietly. Joined a hiking group, learned how to cook for own without feeling alone, started dating. Not seriously, just enough to remind myself that the world didn't end with her. Sometimes people ask why I tended. I just say we stopped being partners. Because that's the truth. Beneath the text message, beneath the betrayal, beneath all of it, she stopped being someone who had my back, and stopped being someone willing to beg for her front. Intimacy isn't just physical. It's in how you speak to someone, how you look at them, and how you choose them day after day, even when it's hard. She chose ego. I chose peace. And in the end, I didn't lose anything. She did. She just figured it out far too late. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the